What's up guys, this is Austin back with another unboxing and review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars The Black Series Kamino Clone Trooper. I've been dying to get my hands on this figure ever since it was announced, so I can't wait to open him up. Before I start the review, I wanted to thank all of my new subscribers. We broke 100 the other day, and I know that's not a huge milestone, but I really appreciate the support. If you're new to my channel and you enjoy this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing. So like normal, we'll take a look at the box before we jump into the review itself. This is a completely new design from the box all the way down to the figure. On the top edge, we have the normal Black Series symbol, and as we come along the right side, we see the clone box art. The back of the box has a new layout with a dividing line between the figure description and the box art once again. Moving on to the lower section, we have the Clone Trooper text on both the side and the front of the box. As we move to the left side of the box, we have the Black Series logo again. Like I mentioned before, this is a completely new design. The dimensions of this box compared to the last Black Series box are very similar, minus the diagonal cut in the top where the box art is displayed. You also have a window on the top of the new box, which was seen on earlier Black Series figures. Besides that missing piece, the boxes are about the same size. The new design is super clean, and I'm glad that Hasbro decided to change it up a bit. One thing I noticed about this new box is that they're numbered like the old Black Series figures, but the numbering system seems to be based on the movie or series from which the figure belongs. For example, the Beskar Mandalorian is also labeled as number 1, even though these figures are from the same wave. I believe the number 2 figure from the Clone Wars will be Ahsoka, followed by the other Walmart exclusives. Okay, that's enough about the box. Let's get this clone unboxed. Unlike the previous Black Series, the whole plastic part here slides out and we actually have two pieces. First off, we have the two blasters, the DC-15S and the DC-15A. These look to be the same molds that we got with the most recent Commander Bly. Okay, he's all out of the box. First impression, he looks very clean. I did notice some quality control issues with this guy before I pulled him out of the box, but we can talk about that a little bit later in the video. Articulation wise, we have two ball joints at the neck. I'm actually going to show you right here. So we have this first ball joint, and then we have a ball joint that's actually going to be up in the helmet. And yes, there is a head sculpt underneath this helmet. I'm going to see if I can get to it a little bit later in the video. Getting back to the neck, we have those two ball joints for rotation, tilt, and forward and backward. Forward and backward, you can get a little bit more because you have those two ball joints. So you can get about that for down, and for back and up, you can get about that. The head sculpt in there allows for a little bit more flexibility. Moving on to the arms, we'll start with the shoulder pad here. This is like a softer plastic. It almost feels like foam to a degree. That's actually glued or attached right above the bicep armor. And with that, it allows you to get a little bit more flexibility here at the shoulder. You can get pretty much a T. I'm not sure how natural that shoulder pad looks, but it's nice that you have the option. There is a hinge here at the shoulder as well as a butterfly joint. You don't get much movement with the butterfly joint, if at all. I can't really see it moving, so I'm not sure if it's actually a butterfly joint. On his left side, it actually moves slightly, but it's a very tiny movement as far as a butterfly joint. Of course, you can rotate the shoulder forward and backward. Unfortunately, there's no bicep swivel like normal, but we do have a swivel here at the elbow where the hinge is. It's a single hinge at the elbow, but we can actually get it slightly past 90 degrees. I just wanted to note that after we do a review of this entire articulation, we are going to do a little bit of a compare and contrast with some of the older Black Series figures. At the wrist, we have the normal swivel and hinges. Moving on to the chest, we have a ball joint for rotation and for swivel. Coming down to the legs, we have a ball joint as well as a swivel at the thigh. At the knee, we have a single hinge, and this is about as far as it's going to get articulation-wise. We do get past slightly 90 degrees here, but not nearly as good as the double-jointed knee. While we're here, I did want to note that this is a softer plastic than any of the other plastic on the figure, except here at the elbow. This is actually going to be the same as the knee pad, and it is different than the shoulder pad. The shoulder pad here, like I mentioned, seems like some kind of foam, whereas these are just a softer plastic. At the ankle, we have the normal hinge, as well as rocker. That's going to be the basic overview of this new clone, and I think we'll move on to some clone comparisons now. Starting off, we'll compare the new Kamino clone with the Phase 2 Clone Trooper from the Amazon 4-pack. Almost all of the articulation between these figures is different. Let's just move from top to bottom. This older Clone Trooper has a basic ball joint at the neck, and he's pretty restricted at the shoulder area. That's as far as he can articulate. But he does have the double jointed elbow, but that's basically as far as he can go. I feel like the double jointed elbows on the older Black Series are somewhat restricted because of the bicep and the forearm armor, and that's keeping it from getting beyond 90 degrees. I wasn't expecting to like the single hinge on this as much as I do so far, and although we don't have a bicep swivel on this new clone, he does make up for it with the elbow swivel. At the chest, as well as the hip, we have about the same articulation, but I believe the overall sculpts are different. The knee on the old clone is double jointed, so you do get an extra bit of articulation. Again, this is as far as this one goes, not quite as far, but it is nice that he has this rotation at the knee because that gives him a little bit more range of motion, especially compared to the older clone that doesn't have any swivel below the thigh. Similar to the older clones, if you do want to bend the knee, you do have to swivel that to the side and bend this. And with this newer clone, because the knee pad is attached to the thigh armor, you get kind of a weird look, and from the side you can see the knee pad. Maybe they could have attached the knee pad to the lower leg or made it a separate piece, because it does kind of look a little bit strange. The ankle joints are the same, but again, probably a different sculpt. Let's do the same type of comparison, but with Captain Rex. Most of the articulation is going to be the same as the older clone sculpt, but Rex's shoulders and elbows are going to be very different. His shoulder pad actually tucks underneath his chest armor, so he can get this very clean T-pose. He also has the bicep and the forearm armor trimmed here, and he can get way beyond 90 degrees because of that. With the new clone, we can get that T-pose, but it doesn't look quite as clean because of that shoulder pad. As mentioned before, we don't get quite past 90 degrees here with the elbow, but the butterfly joint in theory should help to add some bit of articulation. Let's just do a couple of quick poses and we can see how these two vary in articulation. As I was messing around with this figure trying to pose it, I did notice something that I wanted to mention that I missed earlier. The knee pad here is actually loose, as well as the elbow pad in the front. So I know that the elbow pad is actually attached to the lower part of this bicep armor, but in theory you could cut it right there. There's just a thin piece of plastic and it could be loose here and you could actually move it around and have more flexibility there. Same thing at the knee, actually you could cut right there as well as there, and this could be freely moving. If you wanted to get this guy into a kneeling pose and you rotated at the thigh and then at the knee, you bent the knee, this would actually be loose and you could rotate that freely to cover the knee or move into a different direction. All right, this is the first pose. I would say that they both nail this one. I have to admit that I kind of cheated with this pose. I've had Rex for over a year and I know that he cannot nail this pose, whereas this clone trooper, he nails it perfectly. I don't know if you could attribute that to the single hinge elbow or the butterfly joint or possibly the shoulder pad or maybe a combination of all of them, but that's a pretty sweet pose. The last thing I wanted to cover before I try to remove the helmet on this guy are the quality control issues that I've seen. If you haven't already noticed, some of the paint on this clone is chipping or missing in certain areas. The chest paint isn't exactly even, but it's pretty decent. Earlier today, I was talking with a friend who received his in the mail as well, and he was reporting the same issues as far as the paint. There are always quality control problems with figures, but I did want to bring up the issues that I've seen with this guy so far. So if you look in there, there's definitely a head sculpt. You can see the ears. I'm just not entirely sure how to get it out. It may be glued actually at the top of the helmet, so we'll see if I can figure this out. After messing with the helmet for about 10 minutes, I ran it under a hairdryer and I was able to get the outer helmet part soft enough to kind of peel it up, and I realized that the glue on the face sculpt is all the way wrapped about right here, all the way to the top of the head, so there's no way you can get that head sculpt out really without somehow removing the glue or cutting off the helmet. Like most of you, I'm pretty disappointed that the helmet doesn't come off. It's kind of a waste of a head sculpt. I'm sure they have a plan for that head sculpt in the future, but for now it's just going to have to remain under this helmet. If you haven't pre-ordered this figure, he's still available on Entertainment Earth. I've added a link down below in the description, and if you do decide to order him, I would love it if you would use that link. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this review. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you would drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I also have a toy photography account at Visual Force, and I'll be posting shots of this clone very soon. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, drop a comment below. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.